Appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. If you're hearing us, go ahead and type in the chat where you're hearing us from. If you're watching a recording, welcome to Noble Warrior. My name is CK Lin. Noble Warriors want to interview thought leaders about the journey from ego warrior to noble warrior and reclaiming deeper joy and deeper purpose so you can do the same. My next guest is Jack Lian. He's an organizer, builder, leader of Stop Asian Hate movement, and his intention is to raise awareness and empower the AAPI community. He's also the co-founder of Golden Dao with Andrew Yang, presidential candidate. Welcome to Noble Warrior, Jack.
Thank you, CK. Appreciate the introduction. Super excited to be here. Very excited to just drop in with you. And, obviously we've met in ceremony, and I just really love your energy. So I really want to give back to your audience and just spend more time with you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Likewise,
Yeah.
you're a cool dude.
Thank you.
So, uh,
Thank you.
so let's go into the origin story real quick. How did you go from working on Instagram, being
Mhm.
an entrepreneur, own different restaurants, to a community organizer around Stop Asian Hate?
Yeah, for sure. I think the story goes back before, the success, right? It's how how did I, experience, or why did I end up doing this, right? So essentially, growing up in Brooklyn, New York, it was not easy for Asian Americans, right? We had no one to look up to. Always felt like a third class citizen. Experienced a lot of identity issues, experienced a lot of racism, bullying, things like that. So, unlike most people who grow up trying to focus on their education, focus on getting good grades and making their parents proud, I was just trying to focus on how can I get the most protection? How can I
Mm,
survive in my neighborhood? So things I would do is like, okay, I got to join the basketball team, like things like that. I
mm,
got to join the track and field team. I got to leave school with a gang of people so I'm always safe, like,
mm,
which is not a good way to live because you're always in the scarcity mindset, and always living in survival, really. So, I end up doing really well, getting out of that environment, leaving the environment, um, going to community college in Tribeca, which is a really beautiful neighborhood in Manhattan, and then transferring to NYU, where I started to meet like-minded individuals, people from all over the world, international students, and a lot of them were Asian, and they started treating me really nice, like, helping me with homework, uh, buying me lunch, and like just
wow.
so much kindness. And like it was the first time in my life where I could leave like a cell phone on the table and not feel worried that it was going to be stolen.
Mm,
I could invite these people over to meet my family for the first time, and that perspective started changing my life and my identity. But I still faced some of those issues, some of childhood, of um, just not being enough, trauma, anger, especially when I drank. I would
mm,
just be kind of reckless,
mm,
and things would happen. A lot of things that I didn't like getting into fights, things I would say, and I realized that this was an issue, um, especially as I was trying to develop as an adult. So I essentially what I did was I had this opportunity to work at Instagram because a lot of my ads were doing really well. I was running ads for a bunch of restaurants and my own restaurants. So I left the city. I went to the Bay Area, and this is kind of where I got a lot of help, right? Because it's just more common to talk about these things in the Bay. So I,
these things, what are these things?
like therapy, uh, like I think problems, like how
Mm,
to word problems, how to um, word like depression, anxiety, discomfort, anger, like how do we find a safe place to talk about it? you
Mm,
know. So, uh, going to the Bay, it was a lot more common for people to have these very vulnerable discussions on,
mm,
like, what is bothering you, how has it impacted you.
mm,
And it was so new to me because, as Asian Americans, we are really taught that feeling anything is weakness, right? It's like, just do it, get the job done, don't have any feelings. But what happens is that just makes us robots, and
mm,
and we become soulless,
mm,
right? In the East, they say, feelings are like, feelings is how God talks to us, right? It's how
mm,
we communicate with God.
mm,
So, as the more we block that off, the more we just become like, yeah, robots. Like, how does that make us any better? So, yeah, so embarked on this journey of trying to get some help. And I spent 2 years, a lot of time, a lot of money on getting this help. Just all in, like any conference, any retreat that anyone recommended, any session, any person, I would just say yes because I knew I needed it. So I,
Well, before we go into the details of the retreats, was there a particular incident that had you say, "Hey, I really wanted to be better in this area," or
yeah,
it was just merely a realization, "Hey, whatever the accomplished that I have, I need to do better." So I wanted to find a solution to be better. Was there anything
yeah,
specific?
there specifically, I used to, I mentioned I used to own a bunch of restaurants, and a few of my
Mm,
partners were like, one of my partners were one of my best friends. And it ended up that there was some shadier things happening, in the business. Uh, Money missing, working with other people, and it was that moment where I realized I didn't know how to confront this person who I feel so close to.
mm,
It was like, how do I even talk to him about it without one of us getting angry, and then, you know, very likely, like, I would say 50% chance, like, it could turn physical.
mm,
And that was just like my reality. It was like, as at that point I was 26, and I was like, how am I supposed to grow as a human being, as an adult, as a man, if I can't have challenging conversations
mm,
without it getting physical, or a chance to get physical? And I'm like, that doesn't seem right to me.
mm,
So I knew I kind of had a problem, and I knew I was responsible for that, and trying
mm,
to solve that. So
mm.
that was my, yeah, that was really how I knew that I needed some help.
That's beautiful. I mean, that's real maturity, right? To have the discernment to say, my old way of dealing with conflict, which is rage, which is
Hmm.
physical conflict, doesn't work for me anymore as a 26, 27-year-old man
Yeah,
growing into adulthood. So let's find some other ways to do this. That's awesome. I love it. So
thank you.
then that started you embarking on this journey for 2 years, looking for different modalities. What
Yeah.
have you found? Which was the most impactful for you?
Hmm. Well, the first one, obviously, is meditation. I mean, I still do it, and
Mm,
I don't know why I say obviously. I just do it every day. So I think it's, for me, it's obvious. But I met an individual. His name was Diego, or some people might know him as Young Pueblo,
mm,
and he came to speak at Facebook. And at that time, like, 10 people showed up, and I don't know why I showed up. I was just like, this looks interesting. I guess he attracted me to him, and I just sat right at the front, and I was listening to every single word, and I was just really paying attention to how he made me feel. And,
mm,
like, he just made me feel so calm. And I was like, how is this possible that
mm,
this one person who is sitting up, like, obviously talking to a few folks, he's on camera and he's so calm? How is this possible? And I just started asking him a lot of questions, and he was like, hey, I just meditate. I was like, what is that? What does that even mean? You just meditate. Like, how do you meditate? Like, who do you teach? Like, where? No idea.
Details.
Yeah, like he was like, just go on YouTube and listen to some meditation. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay. And then I kind of wondered, I'm like, where's this guy from? Like, how does he have so much time? Like, what was his childhood like? And he was like, dude, I'm a Mexican guy from the Bronx. Like, and I learned how to do this. And I was like, wow, like another minority person of color from a neighborhood that's kind of similar to mine um, is able to achieve this sort of peace,
Mm-hmm.
and he's able to make me feel it. Like I want to do that for others. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I just started with meditation, um, and now I meditate 2 times a day, morning and night. Been doing it now for over 3 years.
Is it TM that you're doing?
I do TM. I try to have a variety. I do breath work. I
Mm.
just try to have a variety, so it's fun. So it's not like one. It's like, oh, it's boring. Like, so it's like whatever I feel like in the morning. It's like I
I
have like
see.
4 or 5 different types.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So yeah, I think back to your question. Um, yes, I mean I started with meditating, and then went to Tony Robbins conference, which was pretty cool. Just learning tools. I think he does what he does really well is he teaches you how to activate your body, um,
Mm.
and and then he kind of dips into like a little bit of spiritual stuff, but he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't like spiritual information, like,
Mm-hmm.
but he doesn't go too much into it because I
Mm-hmm.
think he really understands his audience. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of made me curious. I'm like, wait, what is he talking about? Like, and at this point, I'm not religious. I'm still not religious. I never really believed in anything. Um, Went to church when I was 6, but that was just so my mom could like put me somewhere as she was working.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I started diving deeper, and I just discovered different programs and retreats, like the Hoffman process, like how to heal your childhood trauma and unlearn your love patterns that you learn from your parents. Joe Dispenza, like plant medicine, a lot more. I would go to one every 3 months. It was just nonstop. Yeah.
And is there anyone that really moved the needle for you personally, or they all did, 1 degree and then slowly over time, accumulating over time,
Yeah.
compounding over time, really help you?
Yeah. It was just like perfectly planned, which is amazing. Just to think about it, like started with young Pueblo teaching me meditation. Then I got a taste from Tony Robbins, and then I don't remember what I did next, but I'm pretty sure I did some plant medicine right after that. Then um, went to some Stanford class on it's called interpersonal dynamics. Just I think all of it kind of really moved the needle, but I definitely like you. I think like you, CK. I think ayahuasca definitely moved the needle and exposed a lot of things that I was going through that I didn't know was still bothering me.
Mm. Well, well, if you don't mind, let's go in a little deeper there. Like,
Sure.
what did it uncover for you, or what about this specific mechanism that really was helpful?
Yeah, I mean, it you know, I went on like a week retreat, and the first part, I realized it brought me back to like a time in my life where I experienced a lot of pain, um,
Mm.
and still kind of suppressed it. Didn't know how that it was still bothering me. Didn't know how to deal with it. I kind of just didn't talk about it, and it showed me like, hey, that is still bothering you, and it was a time when I had knee surgery specifically, and I was a basketball player. I tore my ACL, had knee surgery. Girlfriend left me at the time, my first love, and it took me back to that moment where I was in the hospital, watching the ball drop for on New Year's Eve, and I was crying because my girlfriend was supposed to be there, but she decided to go and party and end up, with some other guys and stuff. And I went back as myself, showed up at the hospital, and I started crying with that little boy. Like,
Mm,
I went on the bed and was like holding him, and it was like, didn't know I needed to process that, and it was just
mm,
hours of me crying with this kid, and it was a lot of love, a lot of healing at that moment.
mm. There's a lot of power, whether you drink plant medicine or not. There's a lot of
Hmm.
power being the adult that we are today, knowing what we know, with the capacity to love, to have compassion, to have empathy,
Hmm.
and bring that back to the inner child.
Right.
Right, whether it's through plant medicine or whether through meditation,
Yeah.
what do they call those, the inter-family dynamics, some kind
Hmm.
of work along that line.
Hmm.
It's there's a lot of power in just bringing that envelop that child with a lot of love and compassion.
Totally. Totally. I feel like the pain that we experience from when we were children is really impacting the decisions that we make now. And you don't really realize that, at least I didn't, that most of the actions that I was taking was because of pain.
Mm,
It didn't come from a place of love. And then when you realize that and you start to heal that past, you kind of question, like, why do I make these decisions at all? And
mm,
try to pivot all my decisions to just trying to being in love and being coming from a place of abundance and just like infinite, right? And to like replacing that with everything else. And it's
mm,
hard to do because I'm not used to it. It's like I'm used to being, a lot of there's ego. Like, I got to prove people wrong. I got to make people proud. I got to feel like I'm worthy. Do these things to prove to myself and my parents. And it's
mm.
like, why? Like,
So,
oh,
so okay, so since touch on that, let's I mean double click on that.
mhm,
Um, it's easy to come from an ego, right? And you're gonna, it's easy to rationalize, right? Let
mhm,
me make my family name proud, or my lineage proud, or being Asian proud, or my future
mhm,
children proud, whatever, right?
mhm,
The whatever the belief,
mhm,
and you have a lot of people agree with you.
mhm,
Yes, you should make your parents proud, or
mhm.
yes, you should make your family proud. Yes, being Asian is awesome, or
Right.
all those. You
Right.
have a lot of people who agree with you, and at the same time, how do you? How do I say this? Ultimately, come back to, as you said, to that, just the joy of living, right? It's not
Mhm.
about all those identities. Rather, it's just, how do I operate from the highest energy level, vibrational level, um,
Yeah.
joyous level, energetic level, and just operate from abundance, as you said. Because
Yeah.
energetically, we could feel it's different, but how do you discern for yourself? Which level, I suppose. Which I let's see, how do I say this? Yeah, how do you discern
Mhm.
um, operating from joy, inner joy, intrinsic joy, versus some attachment of identity that you have?
I'm still battling that, right? I think it never ends. Um, and I think the time alone and the time when you quiet your mind is really the time when you're like, okay, like, I get it. Like, is this the right thing? Like, checking in with your body, like checking in with your emotional self, right? Like, checking with your spiritual self. Like, does this feel aligned?
Mm,
Um, does this feel right? Right? Because you know, even Steve Jobs talks about it in his biography. It's like, you know, he uses his intuition, his second brain, and his gut
mm-hmm,
um, to make decisions, right? And a lot of people in the East have been practicing that, and in the West we value intellect.
mm-hmm,
But if there's a way we could kind of marry both of them and kind of activate both of them, like, that is the perfect marriage. So I always try to gut check things. Like, does this feel right? Like, is this coming from my gut? And then if it's coming from my gut, how do I use my brain to solve the problem?
mm, So one key thing in a recent ceremony that was in, that very question came to mind. I got to observe my mind making decisions, grasping for answers, trying to do something when there's nothing needs to be done. It's just trying to solve problems. I try to please me.
Right.
So I got to watch it. One second.
Just give me an idea of what you're hankering for.
Alexa's always listening.
Echo. Stop.
It's Google.
It wants to chime in all the time, you know.
Yeah.
So there's the brain, there's the mind, and then there's the body. One thing I got to experience firsthand is, hey, place my hand in the body by my heart, and then watch the body comes down, and watch everything comes down actually. So
Yes.
so then that particular ceremony was about, you know, don't try to follow what the brain tells me, what the mind tells me, rather is what does my body need in this moment right here and now. Okay, it needs to rest, needs to be steady, or needs to get up, it needs to get whatever the thing is needed. So
yeah, I think that's a tactic that we're not really taught, right? Like if we just put our hands in our chest a little bit more, we naturally calm down, and we're more in our heart than we are in our mind. So it makes a lot of sense that you did that.
So now that we're on the topic of following our heart, our intuition, but also not to get so attached to identity, I have to ask this question, okay? You are a leader of the Stop Asian Hate, well, not the leader, a leader, right, of Stop Asian Hate movement. That movement is based on the identity of Asian.
Correct.
So then, you know, seems a little paradoxical what we're talking about and also what you're a leader of. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you reconcile the two?
Yeah. You know, when the incidents, the attacks were happening on Asian people, I kind of, like many Asian Americans, or Asian people all over the world, felt very triggered. And in my mind, it was going back to that dark place of like, I kind of wish someone would, right? Like try that on me or someone next to me. And then I asked myself,
Try
why?
that. What's
Try
that?
like attack, like, or like attack me, or
I see. So you can,
or spit on me or say something to me. And
Uh-huh.
I was like, why would I wish that? And I was hearing a lot of my friends say that. And it was like, so you can release your pain onto somebody else. That was the answer. And I was like, whoa, like, why would I want to do that? Because then that just multiplies, right? Like it would just never end. And I just looked around at how people were feeling, just got a sense. It was like people were scared to go outside. People were scared for life taking the train. No, Asians couldn't wear headphones or AirPods just to be safe, right? And then there was also anger, and there was a lot of anger, especially for men, right? And I just looked at the whole landscape of the situation, and I was like, someone needs to do something, and it can't come from a place of revenge and trauma, because that only adds a lot more fuel. Like, don't get me wrong, you can be angry, you can experience all those emotions, but the solution is not going to come from that place. Solution is going to come from a place of love, a place of being seen, a place of belonging, feeling heard. And I was just checking at taking a scope at what was happening and what were the solutions. And, obviously politically nothing was happening, but on the streets, I couldn't really support any of the rallies and the organizing that was happening, because a lot of it was like fight back. It was like it was a lot of cursing. It was like all these things that I didn't align with myself. Additionally, there was people who were a little bit older, and they were organizing and protesting. They probably knew what they were talking about more, but they weren't getting the coverage that they needed. And it wasn't cool. It was just like, those were the three problems. It was like, one was out of date, like you got older people doing it. Two, it was like really people who are really angry, who were leading marches. And then three, it was just not trendy, right? It wasn't cool. It didn't make people want to come. It didn't attract people. So I was like, actually, I was at a meditation retreat, and I was extremely triggered by this one situation where a 35-year-old man was stabbed in the back with a knife during daytime in Chinatown. No stealing, no anything. I just stabbed him, and it wasn't charged as a hate crime or anything. And this specific incident made me feel like we're getting attacked in a place where we think is our safe haven, Chinatown, right? I used to go to Chinatown to feel belonging, and someone has to do something. So I looked on my phone as like an entrepreneur, and I was like, who can I ask to lead this movement? Which was silly, because it's like, I don't think anyone has ever done anything like this before. On my phone, I was like looking for operations people, like social media. I was trying to put people together, and I'm sitting here at this meditation retreat, and I just supposed to be relaxed, right? It's a 7-day retreat, and I could not be relaxed. I was just so annoyed, and I was just I gave it up to God or higher power, whatever you believe in. I was like, hey, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here, but let me know if I'm supposed to do anything, and I'm just gonna trust what you tell me. Whoever it was, I'm just gonna trust. And for the rest of the retreat, 5 more days, all I saw was bringing thousands of people together, empowering them, and just changing their state from fear to empowerment and belonging. Nothing else. How we did that is just like cathartic release, just seeing people care about them, and just the presence of a lot of people, right, who would stand for us. And I saw it for 5 days straight, like every single day. And I was like, crap, like that looks like a lot of work. I was like, I'm working at Instagram at the time. I'm just like, oh crap, that's a lot. And then after this retreat was in Mexico, a lot of people were like, hey, let's go to Tulum after, let's go to the beach, let's stay in Mexico. And I was like, crap, I gotta go back. I gotta have a job. I gotta do something. I came back, made a few phone calls, talked to friends, like, hey, we gotta do something. And a lot of these New York friends, they still know me as that drunk guy who would party and get into fights and stuff like that. And they're like, Jack, I know you want to go punch somebody right now, but that's not the right answer. We can't just gang up on people. I was like, oh man, I didn't realize that these people haven't talked to me in years, like, or don't know who I am now. It's like such a shift. I was like, no, like that's not what I'm trying to do at all. I'm trying to bring people together, like let them feel that people care about them, like put something cool together where people walk away feeling like wow, what an experience. Almost like a like Coachella for rallies, right? Like how do we do that? Yeah, no one wanted to help me. Like nobody. Got on the phone, called a lot of people. It was really hard to get help because there's risk, right? It's like, you want to organize an event, like why is that even a solution? What if someone attacks us during the event? What are legal obligations? What if there's COVID spread? And what if no one shows up and you fail? And in my eyes, it was like, okay, there's all these risks, But what if no one does anything? That was the bigger risk to me.
Mm.
Couldn't let it happen. So pulled in, like, I was like, I just need you to do this for me. This is my favor. I'll handle everything else. Put people's names on the project, worked my ass off, paid for the whole thing. And yeah, we got over 10,000 people to show up in a park during COVID, and changed a whole lot of lives that one day. And that one day was not just that moment. It was, the businesses there saw the best day they saw in years. Assembly members in Albany saw a TikTok video of the event, and they were in the midst of trying to fight for a budget increase for Asian Americans, and they raised the budget from $300,000 to $10 million for Asian American nonprofits in New York State.
Wow.
Every week after that, there was another young organizer putting on rallies in different states for months, right? So there was just a catapult. People just needed to see it happen and believe, like, hey, like, that guy looks like me, and he's okay. He's not in jail or anything. And I went to jail eventually, but for something else. But yeah, they just had to see it happen.
Okay, so let me do a quick recap. We can talk about the impact, the waves of impact afterwards. You saw the calling, you saw the vision doing your 7-day meditation retreat. You couldn't find peace in the 7 days because you keep seeing the visions over and over. And you were compelled to actually take action around the vision. And then you overcame a lot of inner and outer resistance to do this, right? So you talked about a lot of things. I wanted to bring back the moment when you got the vision, because most people, I would say 99.999% of the people, they will see visions, right? They will pray for something and the vision will come. And then, like you said, oh, it looks like a lot of work. And most people are like, yeah, that's okay. Somebody else would do it. Thank you, God. And moving on. Let me go to Tulum. Let me hang out with my friends. Let me have my day job and all these things. But nonetheless, you activated that vision by putting energy into it. Can you zoom into those moments and walk us through it? Because for the younger Jacks, younger CKs watching this, they may have visions too, but they may have a lot of internal noises that stops them from taking action on those. So what went through your mind to eventually take action?
Yeah, I mean, there were so many times where I was not going to do anything. So many times. And what happened and how I framed it in my mind, and we always have to, at least I believe we always have to frame like the worst things that happen to us and change it into a positive, or change it into something empowering, give us something worth fighting for, right? So to me, I think the worst things that happened to me were because I was Asian, because I was 6 foot tall at 12 years old, and I was a target, right? I stood out, and I had to adapt to being Asian in Brooklyn most of my life. And it it almost broke me so many times. And
what do you mean by that?
How did it break me? It brought me to a point where I couldn't take the abuse anymore, and I would start fighting back in a way that was absolutely reckless, and it was like a complete fearless side of me, which I didn't recognize at all. Things like that were it was very dangerous. I couldn't recognize myself. I would do things so much to overcompensate for the fact that I was Asian. I would try to fit in. I didn't care about my education. All I cared about was feeling belonging. Yeah, so it almost broke me. And here I am.
One thing that the Dalai Lama said to
Mhm.
Desmond Tutu in the Book of Joy, he said that when the Chinese government was oppressing his people, he said the number one thing he was worried about, he said he would lose his compassion, his empathy for the Chinese government.
Wow.
He wasn't
Yeah.
so worried about his safety. He wasn't so worried about, you know, the territory and all
Yeah.
those things. He was worried about that he would lose his compassion towards the
Yeah.
Chinese government. It's actually, I brought that up because that's what it sounded like. What, you know, you were noticing, you became resigned, cynical, and
Yeah.
then became this person that, you know, that you don't want to be. So that was a beautiful
Yes,
example.
for
Thank you for
sure.
sharing that.
Oh, for sure. I definitely look up to Dalai Lama a lot. So any lessons from Dalai Lama, always love to hear it. But yeah, so I I feel like most of my life I've been dealing with pain from my identity. Worked my ass off to get this help, right? Like to get like access to therapy from Facebook. Like who gets that? Like very small amount of people. To get access to these weekend retreats at Stanford, like to get access to sit in ceremonies with other entrepreneurs who already made their millions and billions, like, and like I'm not them. I'm not the Stanford grad who got access to that. I got really lucky to work at Facebook. I'm not really like a Facebook employee type of guy. And I received this help so much. It absolutely changed my life. I'm less stressed, less angry, more calm, less judgmental, healthier. Don't drink anymore. Like 2.5 years without without alcohol, and all I could think about is like, dude, you got lucky. You received this wisdom. Go help them. Like, go help the people who don't know how to maneuver their emotions right now, because it's so volatile. And when emotions are volatile, it needs guidance. It needs to be shaped. Sorry.
You okay?
Yeah, I got choked up. Um, so yeah, and all I could think about was, it, this is like your purpose, dude. Like, go and help them. Like you experienced the pain. You felt it in multiple ways. You felt it from seeing your grandpa being robbed. You felt it from you being attacked physically, emotionally, verbally. You've seen it throughout your life, and now you're seeing it happen on a big screen to thousands of people who might not have faced this ever, or have faced this their whole life. But out of those thousands of people, how many of them got help? And I was like, shit, gotta go help. So that was just my way of giving back. And who knows if it was the right thing to do. But all I know is, I don't know what their answers are. I don't know what the solution is. I just know how to help people change their state, and getting them out of that fear and anger mindset into channeling that into empowerment, belonging, and feeling seen. And there's something about seeing tens of thousands of people march with you, stand with you, chant with you, and seeing that they all care about the cause that you're dealing with, that lifts you up a little higher. It doesn't make you feel like you're alone and crazy in this world.
Mm.
Sometimes we just need that.
Mm. Well, just like the way Jan Pablo did with you, right?
Yeah.
You identify with him, Brooklyn, meditation. Wow, I want some of that. And now you get to be that teacher or that figure for thousands of others, young leaders who are also starting, this type of rallying in their city.
Yeah, it could be anything, right? It's like I care about Asian hate, right? I care about injustice, but it's like there's so many causes worth fighting for, and people just need to see people who look like them and take a stand and take action.
So say a little bit more about that.
Mhm.
Why is that? I mean, I haven't organized a rally before, so I don't know what that is. So why is it important to see someone in a public light that looks like him?
It's very
I have
simple.
some initial thoughts, but since
Yeah.
you've been doing this a lot longer, I'm curious to know your thoughts.
But yeah, I mean, so to me, it's I don't know who said this, but it's you can't be what you can't see.
Mm.
And it's that's one of the biggest reasons why uh, our success or happiness is dictated by our area code.
Mm.
Period.
Mm.
So we got to get people from those area codes, like my area code, take them to Beverly Hills area code and see what's possible. Like take them to the Bay Area, see what's possible. Take them to a place where it's nature and see that it's possible to find peace, and the greatest lessons come from nature. Like, but if you're always in the inner city and you feel like the inner city is the whole world, you won't grow out of that environment. It's just so hard to grow out of the environment.
Mm.
Yeah.
There's a phrase in Chinese, 井底之蛙. It means if you're a frog dwelling in the bottom of a well, your whole world is that piece of little sky.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing that you know. You don't know anything else. So take them out of that environment so that they can actually see, the glory of, diversity, of all the beauty all around us.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Mm. So, okay. Let's see. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, where do we go from here? I think what it showed me is a lot of things. Like a lot of people need help. A lot of people don't have space to talk about their issues. A lot of people are suffering, and they might know it, they might not know it. And there's just a lot of tools and access that people at the people at the upper echelon get to benefit from, and the people who are working class, working 9 to 5, struggling with families, like there's no way they get to access these tools, and it's completely unfair. So how do we democratize healing? Right? How do we make it cool where people actually think it's something they should be doing, instead of like proving to other people who don't care about them how valuable they are.
So okay. So I kind of see your grand scheme right now. Okay, so your overarching goal is to democratize healing.
Totally.
Stopping Asian hate is a great excuse or a great reason to gather the people to a place where they can enjoy music and learn about new tools, shift their states from fear to love. Am I projecting too much? Did I understand you, what you're trying to do?
Well, I didn't. I guess when I was doing the Asian hate stuff, that was I didn't think I was going to keep on doing it. I thought I was going to do one event, and that was it. My job was done. And then 2 weeks later, I mean, it was like a week later, there was a woman who was beaten up in the streets in close to Times Square, and then the security guards, two big security guards, closed the door on her, and that video went viral. And that was, I mean, that activated me again, because it was like, that's a sign of how America and the people in this country treat us. We get attacked, door closed on you, like no one cared, and that drove me nuts. That which led me to organize my second rally in Times Square, where I took over all the billboards of Times Square, which, by the way, also incredible story. Can you mind if I share it?
No, of course.
Yeah.
This whole podcast is about
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Please share your story.
Yeah. Well, this, the 10,000 people rally was phenomenal. Don't get me wrong, but I already saw that. I knew that was going to happen. People were surprised, but I was like, I already saw it. And as someone who worked at Instagram, who ran ads for a living for a while, I saw the numbers and I knew it was going to be outrageous. Times Square happened in 3 days. I planned it in 3 days. Thursday night, and eventually it'll be Sunday, Easter Sunday would be the event. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I, like, the first time I didn't want to do it because I was like, a lot of work, a lot of stress. I don't want to deal with this. I need a break. I have a job. And I got a sign on Instagram, and I was debating it because it was really hard and it was really challenging to get people from New York City to go to Times Square. People from New York City don't go to Times Square. We don't do that, especially during the pandemic.
I see.
It's like a place that
touristy place.
Yeah, it's a touristy place. It's like, we don't go there. But my intention was like, you got to get people who are not from the area to see that this is happening. And where else would you do it than Times Square, the Mecca, right? The center of everything. And I saw Instagram ad, a photo on Instagram with a sign on the billboard saying "Stop Asian Hate," and I was like, "This is the sign that I got to do it." So I did it Thursday night, committed to it, planned it, blah blah blah.
Was it by yourself, committee, or
it was by myself? I found a bunch of co-organizers that were speakers that helped a lot. Freedom March, my friend Oliver, and they gave a lot of expertise. They contributed. They were amazing, crucial. But a lot of it was driven, and the idea was driven by me. And what happened was, I think what happened was Saturday I go to the place where I think we're going to meet up, and I look on the signs, and there's no Stop Asian Hate on the billboards. And I was so disappointed because that was the reason why I thought it was, it was gonna marching on Times Square, getting the billboards. It would have been
a great
so
photo.
yeah, it would have just been so electric, right? Like, wow, like we want people to feel like people care, and we want people to feel empowered, right? And if we had taken over Times Square, which was the name of the rally, is called Times Square Takeover, that would have been electric. I was so sad. It was 5 p.m. on Saturday, nothing. I just found the photo on Instagram, and I just started DMing people on a Saturday, like Saturday evening, like, hey, I'm doing a rally here from 3 to 5. I did it because I saw this. Like, I already have hundreds of people coming. Like, I need you to post this up if you can. Unlikely anything was going to happen. And I chose 3 to 5 the next day because I had a photo shoot the morning of. I also do modeling, right? So I try to make some money, knowing that I just quit my job at that point. My photo shoot was from like 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Didn't eat anything. I show up at 2 p.m. There's a lot of people there. I'm like, what's happening? Why is there so many people? Oh, it's Easter, and every Sunday we have like a blessing here, or a song circle, a prayer, because it's Easter. I was like, what time do you guys finish? 3 p.m. perfect, right? Because it was like just so happened I had a photo shoot that ended at 2 p.m. and all my other events I start at 1 p.m. Perfect. I get a text message from the guy that I DM'd the day before. Hey, I got Times Square to get all their billboards to light up Stop Asian Hate from 3 to 5. Never met this person. Like, never met this person. I don't know his name, but somehow he got his agency to do it on them in less than 24 hours notice. Times Square taking over on the billboards. We march on Times Square. We had bikers that volunteered and showed up and closed up the street. We marched to the location from Times Square to where the lady was attacked. And instead of having like, you know, it was crazy because at that point I knew what power was, because if I said like, hey, we're going to destroy these doors and kick them down and like run rampant in this apartment building, it could have happened. And there was police lined up in front of the apartment to protect it. And instead, I asked everyone to do a sit down. And we had a few people talk. And then we even had a meditation, which I led. It just so happened that Rihanna was also participating in this rally and meditation. And then she shared this online. So she was the only A-list celebrity to come to a Asian hate rally. And that was on that day. So
how
that was
cool
pretty
is that?
crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, that was crazy. So
I think Oprah made this phrase, luck is when preparation meets opportunity, right? And you had the promotion chops, you know how to get things done, you know how to organize things. You had the divine, vision and also timing. And you had the skills to, the meditation, organization, the right people, you know how to, put together an engaging event, right? And that's really fun. That's relevant. That's timely. Can you say a little bit more about preparation meets opportunity and as a way to serve the greater good?
Yeah, you never know when the skills that you learn when you're, I don't know, 19, 10, like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, come into play, right? Like, from early on, I was involved in gangs, organized, I did a bunch of graffiti. So I knew about the police system. I also can identify with why we hate police. Like, and then, it took me to party promoting and learning how to promote events during college. And that led me to open restaurants. And then that led me to get recruited by Instagram. And then that led me to promoting a rally on Facebook. Like, so you never know when the skills that you learn can impact your future. Like if it was all just planned, like everything was just planned. And it was like, the pain that you faced 25 years ago is now the pain that you're trying to conquer for thousands of people. And, even Steve Jobs said this in his book, like I think he went to school for design and never thought he would use those skills again. But when they were designing the Mac and the AirPod and the iPhone, oh my God, like it's probably the nicest designed product we've seen, right? Like, so I think when you say preparation meets opportunity, I think that's exactly it. And sometimes it's just trusting that the things we're doing is the right thing and not knowing that it could be used again in the future. So these things we'll never know.
Well, there's actually two topics that you touch on. Wanted to double click. One is, so on Noble Warrior, we say this phrase a lot. Your greatest wound, your core wounds, is the source of your superpower. And then what your purpose, your higher purpose is, lies in your taking your superpower to serve your younger self, which is what you alluded to. Your
Yeah.
greatest wound that you suffered years ago, now you get to
Love that.
take what you have today to serve that cause. So that's one topic I want to touch on, like the whole idea of purpose and service.
You got to send that to me. I love that so much.
Well, I mean, you live it, so I just say it.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So another point is I forgot. Well, why don't you talk about purpose? Maybe my second point will come back.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard, right? Because it's like,
Oh, I remember my second point now.
Okay.
Yeah.
go.
It's the matter of trust. Have faith that you don't need to freak out about, oh my God, what is my purpose? Or what's the biggest opportunity? And what you have demonstrated here is that deep level of trust and faith that it's all gonna turn out. What it looks like, you don't know, but it's all gonna turn out. So tell us a little bit more about purpose. Tell us a little bit more about this faith.
Yeah, I think it intertwines, right? Because it's totally related, and it's how we make sense of things, right? And for the most part of my life, I didn't realize that anything I was doing had anything to do with my purpose. It was just all survival. And like, how do I get by? How do I make it to next year, next week? How do I pay for my tuition? I guess I guess in terms of trust, I have difficulty dealing with this too, because in my mind, I'm around a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of successful people, and just from the outside, it's like, oh man, that'd be cool. I want to be like that. And then, I think going back to purpose, it's like, how do I look at the external and see if that's who I am, and see.
What do you mean?
Like, I can notice all these things on the outside. I can notice that person driving a nice car, that person, having $100 million home, and I've seen it all. I've seen these things in real life, right? And I'm like, this is what they did. This is who they are. Is that me? Like, is that me? And you really have to be honest with yourself and be like, that is me or that's not me. And that's really hard to do, because I still get envious. I still, desire things. So it's really tough, right? And the only thing I know is I just have to trust that the ups and downs are supposed to happen. Because if you don't trust that these things are supposed to happen, you don't trust that God or higher power has a better plan for you. And I did a lot of reading on this. It's called Conversations with God. Like, if you don't trust in what's happening, you don't trust in God. So always got to trust.
But it's simple to say, though. Simple to say.
Simple to say, but hard to practice, because I forget all the time. I'm like, oh crap, like this is happening. Oh crap, I got these bills. I got this obligation. I got to take care of my family, because my parents are getting old, and I'm the one who's responsible for them. I'm the breadwinner. Don't even like, tomorrow's not even promised. Like, trust, like, everything always takes care of itself, and it does. So yeah, it does.
One of the things that I started to take on as a mantra always, I actually learned this from the ceremonies that we've been sitting in, is Soligria, only joy. Only joy. So I use that as a mantra during ceremony, but I also use that as a mantra just every day. So for example, there's setbacks of my flights or my rental cars or something like that. Normally I would just what do you mean? I need this and then the other thing you didn't tell me. Oh my gosh, it's so annoying. And then I'm like, just only joy. Only joy.
Only joy. Or I think, what do you think helps you with that? Like getting from, like, because I see people who get triggered from something and are so attached to it for days, and I've been there, so I'm curious to know what what you do to help you with that? Is it just a mantra?
Just literally just only joy. Whether I say it or my friends say it, the conversations that I involve with,
Mm-hmm.
because one of the key things I totally believe in is who I am is the conversations, the network of conversations that I involve myself in.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm involved myself in the conversation of Solagria, only joy, that's a constant reminder for me to, hey, think about the lessons, the insights, the joy, even though waiting in line in a rental car place is kind of annoying,
Yeah,
right?
I
Only
agree.
joy.
Yeah,
So that's how I'm able to bring my attention to that versus the default attention is, oh, it's so annoying or whatever, so
yeah,
inconvenient, so inconsiderate. So that
yeah,
helps me pulling towards a positive polarity.
yeah. I think that's keeping that in mind of the conversations and only joy and the quality of conversations really matter, right? Something that helps me is, well, one is meditating, and then is like learning how to detach from the situation. For example, I was on my flight back to Paris, back to LA from Paris, and I was going back for our mutual friend Keith's birthday, and and I was there hour and a half, 2 hours early, and they closed the check-in um, for whatever reason. I think it was I think they overbooked, and they just completely closed it, and like 10 people were stuck, um, and I couldn't fly back till 2 days later. So I was freaking out for a second, but then I went back to like trust, like, well, this I guess this was supposed to happen, and like not letting that, you know 1 second or 2 second of pain impact like the rest of my week. So I just let it, was detached from the outcome, which you kind of learn from meditating. And I was like, oh, this was a possibility, and then I just surrendered to it, just enjoyed it.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I want to double click on that. Because a lot of people, especially people who are not necessarily familiar with meditation, they think that by meditating, we're gonna become, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like a rug, right? Area rug. People just run you over, like
Mm-hmm.
whatever things happen to you. It's like, okay, sure, like a pushover.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's what you're saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
What you were saying, um, let me know if I'm projecting too much,
Yeah.
is being okay with what is and still advocate for what you stand for.
Totally. I
So
mean,
have a backbone, but at the same time be okay with whatever it is.
yeah, totally. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was trying to get my flight. I was trying to get the best option. And after I spent like significant amount of time talking to the woman who barely spoke English and was trying to figure things out, I got to the best possible outcome. Everything else has to be let go. Like, don't get me
Mm-hmm.
wrong. I was there. I was calling my credit card. I was trying to fix it. But you got to the place where you couldn't fix it, and everything you could do was done.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. There's no more reason to waste more energy than is needed. That's how I always see things, right? It's like, what can I do now? Did I do everything I could? And at that point, it was yes. I was like, I'm not going to dwell on it anymore. Just that's it. And I mean, to be able to separate yourself from the pain and I guess the inconvenience is really tough, but it comes from meditation. It's really where it comes from. Like, I mean, even I catch myself sometimes because I'm still not perfect, and somebody skipped me in the bathroom line. I was at a party, and I was like, oh shit, this guy I grabbed his shirt, and I was like, hey, you can't skip me. And then he, it was, I felt I know this is how I know I'm not perfect, because I still do these things. And then I caught myself because the bouncer was like, "Hey, stop!" Like a bouncer, bathroom bouncer, and then I was like, "Okay, like, it's not worth the energy.
Hmm.
It's just not worth it. Like, let him skip you. Like he's already there. Like I've already tried to stop him. Bouncer told me to stop. Like so there is not being a pushover because I still, told him something. But then it's like it doesn't have to escalate.
Yeah, for sure.
You know.
I appreciate it.
So
Thanks for sharing. No, I mean, I love it. I love that you have that strong spine, right? That spiritual spine to advocate for yourself. Grab people by the lapel. That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, got me in the below. My friend was behind me, like, calm down. I was like, no, you're trying to skip us. Yeah.
That's too funny. Okay. So what are some of the happy accidents, being a community organizer that you just never anticipated? You're like, wow, I did this for the greater good and I let go of whatever happened. And this was like, I never expected this to happen. And a happy accident happened. So Rihanna being at the meditation that you led, that was a happy accident. Is there anything else that was surprising to you?
Well, she came intentionally. She was there she marched with us. She had a sign, like, but that was incredible because how like I say, making things cool is important because you change culture. Like that's so impactful for us. Like if you see a Rihanna like showing up to a rally, like that motivates millions of people to be like, okay, if Rihanna did it, like I could show up too, right? And the people that show up, more people that show up, the more political leaders and entrepreneurs and business leaders, they all notice. And it's like, oh, people care enough to show up. Maybe I should talk to my employees about this. Maybe I should write some new policies on this. Maybe I should donate more money to this because a lot of people are being impacted. So that's why it's important for Rihanna to show up. But back to your question. So during the rallies, I invited Andrew Yang to come speak a few times, and I known Andrew during his first when he first announced that he was running for president. And as an Asian man, I was like, don't embarrass us. I was like, who the hell is this guy? I was like, don't embarrass us. And he just completely surpassed all my expectations. And I was so happy for him. I donated to his campaign, but he didn't really know who I was. But during the rallies, he would come. And it was very important for him to also speak up for the Asian community too, because he's, he's in terms of media, he's like the go-to guy to speak about anything that represents Asian stuff, right? It's like him and Jeremy Lin, who are national figures, right?
Yeah.
And he showed up, and he showed up very last minute. He wasn't going to come to the rally with 10,000 people, and he came. He brought his kids. He brought his wife, and he spoke. And he was like, "Wow, that felt like a presidential debate. Like it was so electric." And then he would come out to more of my events, and when it was time to help get more Asian people to vote, because voting is one of the tangible things we can do to make a difference. It's he was also very supportive of that because he was also running for mayor, which it didn't end up in his favor, but I think now looking back, he's pretty glad he didn't win. But what happened was, he lost his race. He had some time, and his brother invited me over for Thanksgiving, and which was amazing. And I thought there was going to be 20
His brother
people.
invited you?
Yeah.
Wow. That's cool. Wow.
Yeah. I don't know if
happy
you know.
accident.
You actually don't know this. I thought you did. So his brother-in-law invited me over for Thanksgiving, and as a Chinese person, we don't really celebrate Thanksgiving, but so I always, since I was a kid, going to friends' places, and I thought it was gonna be 20 people there, I don't know why 20. I just thought it was got to be 20. It's 8 people. It was him, like Theo, my friend, one of my best friends. It was Andrew, his wife, his 2 kids, his brother, his mom, and me.
Wow.
Which I was like, what the hell is going? And I mean, I was like, and we started talking about things, talking about movement, talking about rally, talking about opportunity, talking about nonprofits. And he was like, we should do something together.
Mm.
And I'm like, yeah, fuck, yeah, right. Like, you know, that's it. You know, he probably says that to hundreds of people.
Mm.
And he was like, what should we do? And I was like, well, there's a thing called DAOs. It's a decentralized autonomous organization. You know, we should start a nonprofit because here's why DAOs are cooler and better. And so we started a DAO together.
Mm.
And we've been traveling all over the country for the last 5 months. You know, just had dinner with him and his family yesterday because he was in LA.
Mm.
And yeah, and like now me and him are business partners.
Mm.
That was totally unexpected.
Mm.
So yeah,
So unpack that a little. I mean, other than super cool, right? So congratulations, super cool,
thank you.
Andrew Yang, super high profile. You know, definitely a visionary.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I'm a supporter of Andrew. But unpack that for us, if you don't mind. Like to take a like a meta perspective on that.
Mhm.
What the heck happened to to have you become business partner with Andrew Yang?
No idea. No idea. It's not what I mean, he is just, I just don't understand how it happened. Um, yeah, I mean, one day, you know, he's coming over and, you know, to the rally, and he was very impressed by it. And he wasn't going to come to the rally because I tried to get him to come and he couldn't make it. And then for whatever reason, he made it. And, you know, I was at that day, I was like, moving things around, and he came and it was so electric. And, um, and then he would come again and again, and he just got to know me. And you know, I never really even spoke to him that much during the events because I just knew everyone was trying to speak to him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I kid you not, probably I've only said more than like 5 sentences to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like 3 of those sentences is like, are you ready to come on? Like, what are like, when do you want to go? Like, it was like that was all the interaction that I had with him. And then yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. I can't explain it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's certain. I think your actions speak louder than words, right? A
Mhm.
lot of people talk, and then you did something about it. And
Yeah.
also, my guess, my hunch is probably your events speak the impeccability of who you are, probably, right?
I hope
So
so.
based on the results, you can get a taste of just how you think about things, how you do things, you know, the standards that you hold,
Mhm.
the people that you surround yourself with, you
Yeah.
know, but this is all projection. I have no idea. I don't know what's going on
Yeah,
inside
I
his
think
mind.
that might be it, CK. I think, you know, there's a lot of unspoken things. And you know, I always wanted to be a really good speaker, but I just don't speak a lot. I just, yeah, I was not the guy to be outspoken. Um, I just, yeah, I mean, I kind of keep to myself. I actually prefer to listen.
Mm.
But you know,
Yeah, I mean, on that note, I would say, because you and I, we met a couple of times, and I always thought you were very quiet.
Mhm.
You have a serious face on. I didn't know what's going on inside your head. And then I
Yeah,
ask you some questions, and you're like, you drop some like knowledge bombs. I was like, wow, you know, this guy's really interesting.
yeah, appreciate that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that
Well,
feedback a lot. They're like, "Oh, you're kind of intimidating." I'm like, "Shit." Like, I don't, I just listen. Like, I'm here to learn. Like, yeah. So I don't know. But one of the reasons why I enjoy going to clubs a lot back then was because the music was so loud. You couldn't talk to anyone.
Mm.
and you would just feel people.
Mm.
Like, how do they feel? How do they make you feel?
Mm.
And then you would choose who you become friends with based off of how they made you feel, and it was just poetic. I loved it way more than like hearing people talk, because sometimes people could say a lot of things and could be like 90% bullshit. Like you just never know. But the way they make you feel, that's almost for the most part accurate.
Mm.
You know.
So say more about that. Before you respond, I'll just quote something. I think it was Maya Angelou who said, "People are not going to remember what you say or what you do, but they always remember how you make them feel."
Totally.
I didn't believe that because I was a very cerebral person. It's like, nah, feeling.
Yeah.
Who care about those
Yeah.
things?
Yeah. I get it.
It's knowledge. It's
Yeah.
content that
Yeah.
matters. And
Wisdom.
I was
Yes.
so wrong. That was me in my 20s. I didn't understand this. But bringing back to this, say more about that. How, as a community builder, especially, your quote unquote job now is to feel, right? Sense the collective feel a lot, and
A
then
lot.
guide the conversations based on the collective feel a lot. So say a
Yeah.
little bit more about how you are using that and how you cultivate that sensibility. Mhm.
Okay. So how I cultivated that was, what I used to be a party promoter. I was, a partner of a party promotion company. And I don't give myself a lot of credit. I mean, it seems like I do just based on this conversation. But one thing I could do really well is I could look at the whole situation of the club, and I could be like, that it looks like there's gonna be a fight over there. Like, send security there right now. That
Mm.
side looks like they're not really dancing, or they're not really having fun. Like, get another bottle of alcohol there. Let's bring some people from the fun side to the boring side. Music is not really
Fun
doing it.
side to the
Yeah, or
boring side.
whatever, just like that side looks more fun. That side
Yeah.
does it. Let's like bring, and at the end of the day, it's just all
Mhm.
energy,
Mhm.
right? It's all energy. It's like that the energy there looks better. The energy there looks more intense. The energy of the room isn't picking up. Get more people in. Like, let's get more people in. Like, we need more, like, oh, people aren't having as much fun. Let's get more alcohol. Like, whatever it is. And I was just, it was like something about, I think, being super empathic, or just like being too observant, or maybe it was just me growing up in Brooklyn, where I always had to watch my surroundings and
Mm.
pay attention to like anything that like
Mm.
could threaten me. So I just couldn't stop paying attention to everything. And
Mm.
that skill, which kind of was annoying sometimes, because it never turned off unless I just got drunk.
Mm.
Like, that's how I look at rallies, community building. It's like, oh, they're not paying attention. Oh, like, you can't hear back there. Like, why are those people talking? Like, is there anything, like, are they excited? Are they chanting? They're not chanting. I got to go over there. I got to go be there so they listen, or whatever it is. That it goes to the experience, right? And my goal of these experiences is people to walk away coming back, like, I can't believe that just happened. I can't believe you guys missed that. Like, that was so empowering. Like, and I don't share a lot of words. Even in my own rally, in my first rally, 10,000 people, I didn't say anything to the end. I let everyone speak until, and then I let myself speak. And by that time, like, 50% of people were gone. So I just pay attention to the energy, and it's hard to really word it, but that's really what it is.
So now we're getting into more like esoteric realms. In medicine circle, we said a lot. In meditation circle, we said a lot. Sensing the room, or space holding for healing, or for enlightenment, or
Yeah,
for
it's holding space.
ascension, right? These type of phrases we hear a lot. It's important, but it's hard to master, hard to get better at it. I don't know how else to say it, right? How do you give what the room needs, except then just do it more of it. Is there anything else you wanted to say about just being a better organizer, energy channeler, listening for what the room needs? Anything else you want to say about that?
One thing I realize is a lot of people are not really aware of their surroundings, especially when I come to California, LA. It's like, I don't know what it is, and maybe it's not healthy to be so aware of your surroundings, just because you're always analyzing, right? But yeah, I think paying attention to how people feel, like especially around you, like, or just being curious of it, like, are they having a good time? Like, or if you're at like a networking event, just like, is that person struggling? Like, or like, is that person having a difficult time meeting people? I'm just curious of that, right? Just having some curiosity. And then I'll go explore if that was accurate. I'd be like, I'll just talk to them, feel them out.
Mm.
And I'm like, oh, maybe they wanted that. Maybe they did it. I'm like, and just practice. That's how you practice. It's like trying to feel how people feel, and then trying to go help a little bit and seeing if I did the right thing.
How is that relevant to being an entrepreneur? How is that relevant? Yeah, how is that relevant being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think entrepreneur, the most important thing is the team, right? And it's and it's I'm not great at it, because I can admit I've had over 100 employees before, and dealing with my employees was so hectic. It's stressful, and like trying to run the operation, and then work on the customers and then the employees. It's super important because just you having a way to like tap in to see what's happening, or checking in, or like you feel like one of your employees is not happy about something, or upset about something, and you just go and tap in and see why. And you might assume something that might be correct, and then that impacts the bottom line, right? Because if they're having a bad day and they're customer facing, maybe we need a break. Maybe they need some words of encouragement. Maybe they need you to just sit there and listen for a while, right? And the more you show up for your team, the more they show up for you. So I think having that skill is extremely important.
And then how does that translate to a governance structure like DAO? Because DAO, essentially, in my mind, the way I look at DAO is it's a governance structure. You essentially laid out with transparency what this organization stands for, what are the different responsibilities, what are the quote unquote incentive structure, this and that. Laid everything out. It's a governance structure. So
yeah, DAOs are tricky because DAOs, a lot of it is based online, and a lot of it is anonymous, which is complex, right? It's not something I've ever faced. A lot of it is behind the screen, and I'm always in person type of guy, right? I'm not on a screen behind a keyboard. And there's a lot of these people who come from the gaming industry, and they're used to be talking behind a screen. And when you type something to someone, it's a lot easier to be mean or straightforward and insensitive, right? So it's not something I'm used to. But the thing that DAOs are really good at is there's transparency. There's a lot of incentive for the mission and everyone to do well. And I saw the challenge with nonprofits is like, hey, we just donate money, but there's no way to contribute myself. There's no community. There's no, how do I know who else cares about the same causes that I care about? How do I become friends with them? Because that's like, they should be friends. Like, it's like, duh, like you care about the environment. I care about the environment. We're halfway there. Like, we have one major thing in common. So that's the beauty of DAOs, right? It's like we try to build community, and then when the community does better, everyone does better, right? So I'm still trying to figure out how we can use some of the space holding in in Web3, but a lot of it is like Twitter Space. A lot of it is like AMAs. It's
Oh, okay. So you do have some synchronous conversations.
we do.
Okay.
But look, I can admit it's not something I'm an expert at. I'm better at getting all the people to come to the event and then talking to them, like that, and it works. And I think, in a way, that's, I stick to my strengths a lot, and I'm like, that's what we're going to continue to do, because people love seeing other people in person, and no matter how advanced technology gets, and I'm a believer in technology, I just don't think you can ever replace in person um, interactions.
Yeah. I mean, this is an area that I'm very, very interested in. Well, actually, let me put it this way: tangentially interested. I believe in the overarching promise,
Mm-hmm.
but I haven't gotten into the in the trenches details, so I don't
Mm-hmm.
exactly know what's going on. But I'm very much like you. You and I,
Yeah.
we met at an in-person event.
Mm-hmm.
We were in front of a wisdom teacher, Banky, right? He could did like 90-minute Dharma talks like nobody's business, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, but that's one way. It's not a dialogue. It's
Mm-hmm.
not multiple conversations happening at the same time. So I see the limitations of having a guru giving Dharma talks. But I think to really garner, to really collect the collective energy, right? People's goodwill and desire to, in that case, the Amazon forest, to have a mechanism that capture that, that's gonna work a lot better than, say, one-off donations and one-off
Right.
artifact sales or things like that. Because they're only it's transactional when it's like that. But when it's a DAO, that you're investing to the long-term well-being of this movement,
Right.
this collective energy that you own. So
Right.
I'm very interested to, one, how do you hold that space? Two,
Yeah.
how do
Yeah.
you harness that energy for the greater good of all?
Yeah. 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 We're trying to figure it out. It's not easy. The idea of the DAO is amazing, and we plan for the technology to get there. But the truth is, there's a lot of technology that is subpar, and it's not there yet. Um, but there's a lot of investment into those technologies, and it will get there in like a year or two. And then by that time, our community will be stronger, and then we'll be a lot more organized in that way, in that fashion.
What's something that you wish exists but doesn't exist yet, just in terms of the DAO space? Whatever, your, yeah, just what you desire right now, then that it doesn't exist yet.
It does exist. Like I like these operating systems where people can log in and vote. It's just the users haven't adapted to it, so we can't really implement the technology. And
Mm,
it's just there's just so many bugs, right? And
mm,
getting engagement is a challenge. But
mm,
it's always been a challenge, right? Like just getting people to vote. Like if you think
mm-hmm,
about it, like for our democracy, like
mm-hmm,
how many people voted for the mayoral election in New York City?
mm-hmm,
Like less than 10%. Like how many people vote for president? Like I don't know, but the mayoral of New York City is like 10%. Like
mm-hmm,
that's pretty shameful, and that's been happening, for a few hundred years now. So
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, I mean, this is, I'm just thinking out loud with you. I don't
yeah.
have an answer, certainly, so I don't want to pose myself as a guru of any sort. This is just,
Mhm.
I think people don't vote. I think the phrase, in the DAO community they use is voter apathy, right?
Mhm.
Because it's not relevant to their day-to-day life. I think the
Mhm.
narrative is weak. When the narrative is strong, then people show up
Well,
to vote, to take some action.
mm,
When you
yeah.
have stronger narrative, like, hey, I'm doing this to, for example, I don't know. Anyways, stronger narrative, then
Mhm.
people will be more compelled, like what you're doing.
Mhm.
When it's fun, when it's inspiring, when I'm
Yeah.
giving tools to have conversations about Asian hate towards my kids,
Mhm.
towards their school, towards my company,
Mhm.
then like, of course, right? There's a positive ROI, very obvious positive. Then, of course, I show up. I'll vote with my presence.
Mm-hmm.
Just a thought.
Yeah, no, that's a great thought. I've been thinking about it a lot, actually. So I think that might be something. Like how, right? It's like how. So yeah, I'm gonna put some thought into it, and yeah, I'll keep you posted on that.
Please do. Please
Yeah.
do. One last question. This is maybe planting a seed, maybe for future conversations. In my mind, this is what the impression I got is you're really keen on providing tools to help people heal internally, their emotions, their soul, so forth, right? Their mind. So right now you have a rallying call of Stop Asian Hate to, for people to gather, and then you give them some of these tools.
Mm-hmm.
Are there other rallying calls that you are thinking about as a way to keep those people together to practice those tools of a mindset, heart set, soul set
Yeah,
to ascend to be even better?
I haven't figured it out yet, but I've been thinking about it a lot. Like how, because that's like how do we just create some space for people to come together, and how do I organize that, and how do I get people to come, and how do I get people to care, and then actually doing it, because doing it is scary, right? Like, and then sticking to doing it, is like, I'm not the most committed type of person. I kind of like don't ever want to overpromise. So yeah, it's a thought. I mean, I love to pick your brain on it as well, like how to do it. But it's people have been telling me to do it, and like just even like creating a group, a Zoom once a month, once a week, bi-weekly, and just like getting people together to talk. That's kind of the thinking, but like structuring it, getting myself ready for it. That's the challenge.
There's a party called Daybreaker. Have you heard of them before?
Yeah, it's like the morning during the
Yeah,
party.
yeah. So instead of partying at night, partying in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And their whole thing is, let's start off the morning with good vibes, basically, right? Juice, something that activates the body, with conversations. There's somewhere along that line, that's my sneaky suspicion, right? For the people that want to practice the conversational skill, the emotional skills, you make it cool, you make it fun. That's your expertise. I think there's something there.
Yeah. Daybreakers. I always wanted to go. As if you want to go, we should go together.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome, Jack. Is there anything last that I asked you a bunch of questions? Anything we hadn't covered, if you'd be upset, if you didn't cover that thing.
About.
Yeah.
No, I think we covered a lot. I really think we covered a lot. I mean, yeah, we gotta make some space for healing. Simple as that.
Jack, I just really appreciate who you are, right? The thoughtfulness and the fact that you answer the divine guidance, the vision, and you trusted it. You put in all the work. You put your money where your mouth is. You made it happen. And as a result, you're now in business with Andrew Yang. Congratulations. Obviously, it's just the beginning. It's not the end. There's a lot more to do, a lot more to create, and just really appreciate you sharing your journey as a noble warrior. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, CK. I appreciate you, coming to me and just talking to me and asking me questions, even though I seemed like I have a very serious face. Just tapping in and just being a brother, man, it means a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I knew I had to talk to you after the way you took Hape, so I had like, all right, I gotta talk to this guy. You took it like a champ.
Did I? I don't know. I took I was like crying and stuff. Like
you go like a champ, dude.
Yeah,
All right.
Appreciate
Let's end the
that.
broadcast now.
Okay.
Hold on.